20 or 30 years worth of work, just like
You
that.
live and breathe the values of Wealth Factory.
But there's something interesting about locating energy, and we found always have to be ready with a plan B.
When you do things that are scary,
Are my personal expectations aligning with my businesses?
Hi, welcome to the Wealth Factory podcast. My name's Eric Sullivan. I've built several companies. Today I'm sitting with a really important person to me, Norm Westervelt. Norm and I have known each other for probably about 4 or 5 years. He's a really important person in my life. And so full disclosure, Norm's a friend, a business partner of mine, and not some person that I'm interviewing in the cold. And so Norm, before we jump in and get into your story, everyone's always very interested in that and how it is that you've built the life that you've built. But if you are talking to an entrepreneur and you have about 30 seconds with a person that makes really good money, right? Like when you met me, but maybe doesn't feel like that's sustaining. Maybe that money's vanishing every single month. What is it that you would tell that person?
Eric, I would start with a question. Why do you feel that way? If you feel that way, if you're truly successful and it's going well, but you feel that way, it may be more of a connection up here in your checkbook than not. Exploring why you feel like the way you do is the most important thing. I examine every day, but take a deep dive quarterly. Are my personal expectations aligning with my businesses? And sometimes they're not, even when I'm successful. It's a question of why.
I think that that's a really important thing to double click on, actually, is this mindset component of building wealth, I think. I think every day at Wealth Factory, when I meet new people that are coming into the program, that there really is this reprogramming that's necessary for them. People are building things, they get focused on very, very specific things within their business. They have the same problems. Everyone that comes into here, has some form of the same problem, just difference in scale and the people that we're working with. And so can you talk about what is the change in mindset for someone that typically works? When you see someone actually make that change, that click happens and they start to actually go from being a cash flow generation engine where there are all of these leaks to actually building the infrastructure necessary to have sustaining wealth. What are the commonalities in the people that are successful in doing that coming into Wealth Factory?
One word: structure. As you mentioned, there's these 5 areas that can derail an entrepreneur: cash flow, taxes, insurance, investing, and estate planning. If an entrepreneur does not have structure in all 5 of those areas, they can be insanely successful. But number one, not feel like it, because all 5 of those areas are stressing them out at the same time. But more importantly, any one of those 5 areas can wipe out 20 or 30 years worth of work just like that.
Yeah.
And a good, involved, engaged entrepreneur actually knows that. It never leaves our mind. You and I talk about this frequently in the businesses we do together, in the businesses we have separately. It's not what I know that scares me, it's what I don't know.
Many people watching this video may have come across Norm, met Norm, be in the Wealth Factory ecosystem. And some of you might actually be new to the Wealth Factory ecosystem. But one of the things that's definitely true is that we live and breathe the values of Wealth Factory around here. And I'm a huge believer in what it is that we've built here, the structure that we've built, and utilizing that structure. And one of the things that's really driven me to that is, like I said, I've been meeting with Norm every single Thursday for the past 4 or 5 years. He was a mentor of mine before we ever partnered on anything. But I've always really valued the way that you show up. And one of the things that really drove me to wanting to partner with you was not necessarily the partnership component, but there are some things that can be taught and other things need to be caught, right? So you need to be in the proximity of the right person that's doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really stuck out to me very early is the way that you approach business relationships with people. And I think that having things structured a certain way set you up to be able to do that well. And so every single opportunity that we've done together, you've actually utilized your trust for your portion of funding those opportunities with us. Can you talk a little bit about how having that right structure may set you up for deals, negotiations, or business relationships
Mm-hmm.
the right way?
I'd be happy to. But while you were describing that, it just occurred to me, fun fact, the very first time we shook hands was in this very room.
That's right. It was a different room at that time.
It was a different room, but there's something interesting about locating energy, and we found it in here. When I don't have a lot of secrets that people would go, oh wow, Norm did this, and this, and was successful. It's actually a very short list of things that I have done consistently for a long, long time. And different philosophies were involved in that. One of the examples, you and I talk frequently about always having a plan B. So we may have the right team members, we may have the right equipment, we may have the right data, but we always have to be ready with a plan B because we just don't know. The same holds true for funding and actual cash financing. So many of my opportunities that I was able to take advantage of, I was only able to take advantage of it because maybe 10 years before that, I set up a structure of systematically setting dollars aside for I didn't know what was coming. And that is so hard. That particular discipline with the clients that we talk with, that is the hardest thing that they do. And they don't even realize that they're spending virtually every dollar that comes in. Some of it recklessly, some of it on sound decisions, but it's just not working out. The structure is what has given me the confidence to go into new deals, but to know that the cash is ready to do that deal. Having a cushion to be able to make mistakes is very, very important. This is an imperfect world, and now more than ever, our society is so challenged. It's so challenging for a small business owner right now. The margin of error is so skinny that if I have a resource, I'm going to protect that with all my energy because I'm saving that for the next opportunity. And I'll admit, I have really enjoyed the life that I have been given. But sometimes even me and my wife Jenny have a conversation about, well, should we go on an international trip next year? Should we do this? Should we do that? All I'm thinking about is rebuilding my war chest. And she's okay with that because this is how we've lived our lives. Being prepared, not only for the opportunities, but also the setbacks too. And that's where we do such a great job being by the side of our clients, small business owners who don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And we are here for them to guide them and walk them through the steps to be able to manage that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that many of the people watching this, what I'll say is, a ton of our audience is entrepreneurs. Maybe they're, you know, people who are just high earners in W-2 jobs. A lot of times they're actually a mixture of the two. So they might have some W-2, some
Yeah.
1099 income.
Yeah.
A lot of real estate investors tap into this show. And I think that we have different profiles of people that come to us. But one of the major profiles that does come to us is not necessarily the investor profile, but the entrepreneur profile. We get both, but I want to double click on the entrepreneur profile because you talked about being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do things that are scary, so someone that's an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur profile, you go through, let's say, a decade
Mm-hmm.
of your business. And you every single day you've been doing things that would be scary to other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get used to waking up at 3 a.m. But there comes a point where that way of living is a little bit foolish. If you're 10 years, if you're 5 years or 10 years into your entrepreneurial journey and you're still not sure if your family is going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably time to start taking, some different steps. And so, can you tell us about maybe a person that you've come across without giving a name,
Mm-hmm.
right? But someone that came into our program that was maybe that profile that was able to make the transition to being an architect of their universe.
Yes. And as I'm thinking this through, there's a lot of faces and a lot of names that come to mind. As you mentioned earlier, our clients, our small business owners, virtually have all the same issues in common. They're in different silos, different industries create different challenges, but a small business owner is generally going to face all the same issues. The process of working with Wealth Factory begins with identifying your greatest concern, the client's greatest concern. Is it taxes? Is it cash flow? What is it? There is a short list for everybody of things that concern and bother them. I have mine. But if those concerns are not addressed head on and very intentionally, they're never going to get solved. They're never going to get resolved. And I love what you just said, waking up at 3 a.m. Now, I do that intentionally. A lot of business owners were actually still up from the night before, thinking about cash flow, thinking about team members, thinking about lawsuits. But that's what being an entrepreneur is. All those things come with the job. So you're right. Maybe if they don't like their job, they're going to have to look at something else. But we do such a great job of reminding these small business owners, what were you passionate about 15 years ago? And they're really quick to remind us. And all we have to do is help recreate that. And being by their side, quarterbacking, walking them through the areas like cash flow, taxes, insurance, investing, and estate planning. They feel connected. They feel like they have a friend again. And they feel like they have good, sound counsel of somebody that's by their side. And so we just find out where the individual is at and then start chopping down the trees one at a time.
Will you give us an idea, not just of what Wealth Factory does, but also why is it that you're here? Why does this company exist?
Wealth Factory is first and foremost an education company. When an entrepreneur comes to us, they know the terms like cash flow and taxes, but they know very little about how they actually move. They don't know about the term velocity of money. They don't know a lot of the tax strategies. They don't know the risks that they're taking by not having their entity legally set up correctly, costing them money and exposing them to liability. They don't know what they don't know. We take the information that's pertinent to a small business owner today, and we walk them through that. And here's the beautiful thing, Eric. Most of the principles and the information within these principles actually haven't changed that much over 30 years, even 40 years. The same, yes, things in tax code change, but guess what? They're going to change again. The principle, though, of tax planning will never change. And so many of our business owners have never even practiced that because they've never had a professional in their life that says, we need to do tax planning for this year. So when we remind them of that they're actually in the driver's seat, we put them back in control of their lives, essentially. When I was starting out more than 40 years ago as an entrepreneur, and I know people that follow our podcast know this, my undergraduate degree is in accounting, and I have an MBA, and I had one full-time job ever, and I didn't enjoy that. And so I became a small business owner, which is probably the scariest part of that, was explaining to my wife, Jenny, what am I doing here? I literally took all the savings from that one job that had been put in a qualified plan. I took all that savings and rolled it into my first opportunity. And I haven't looked back. And if I had had all the principles 35 years ago or 40 years ago that we teach at Wealth Factory now, I'd actually be in a different place. It's a much wealthier place. Don't regret the lessons or anything that I've learned along the way. I would just be in a different place because I didn't have anybody by my side teaching me basic principles so I could focus on my business. Now, at Wealth Factory, we don't actually do anything for you. We teach you how to fish because I don't need a business owner to have to rely on Wealth Factory the rest of their lives. I want them to want to be a part of Wealth Factory the rest of their lives. And we have several hundred clients that have been with us for years and years and years because they like that guiding force. So I am called to install in the lives, especially of younger entrepreneurs, what I wish I had had 30 and 40 years ago.
That does remind me. I mean, I think as a lot of really young, intelligent entrepreneurs come to us to work with us, there is a little bit of a commonality in that there is kind of this self-education culture and a tendency to move forward in the school of hard knocks instead of through some sort of a formal education process or whatnot. But I think a lot of times people come to us with preconceived notions of what it is that is possible in all of this. And so we get a lot of folks that come, start talking to us. They want to move money offshore. They want to utilize all of these, very intricate strategies that, they've seen either other people do that have different circumstances than them, or, maybe they researched a few things, they saw some things, they think that some things are possible that may not be the right fit. Can you talk a little bit about when someone comes to us and they have kind of this mindset, like, I know that I can do these things. How is it that we go about helping that person? Because I think that I've seen a lot of times really, really smart people get themselves into trouble. And, it's possible to end up in things like the Panama Files, if you don't actually move forward correctly, right? So can you expand on that a little bit?
So many times today, just in this podcast, the phrase comes to mind, that famous starting phrase, of that wonderful piece of literature. These are the best of times, and these are the worst of times. From a technology standpoint, we are advancing from an accelerated rate, and people just assume that all those tools are correct and will fit their needs. They research it online and then they just do it. And then they call Wealth Factory.
Yeah.
I lost $100,000 doing this, that, or whatever. And slowing the pace down, having caution, denying fear of missing out. Already, the clients that I work with, I have already talked with some that are sick about taking advantage of the IPO 2 weeks ago because the price is settling. Well, you bought it at the top. That's what it's going to do. Don't think about that today. Assume it's going to go up. But when people believe they can have a life-changing event in one transaction, that's a formula for disappointment. We're just now getting over all the people that were taken by cryptocurrency scams. And so the next thing comes up, and the next thing comes up. And so I challenge the small business owner. What is it you do? Are you a dentist? Are you a chiropractor? Do you own a restaurant? Are you in construction? There's a reason why you were successful. Go do that. There are no, every once in a while, yes, we hear about people that hit the ball out of the park. But pay attention to our society. Now we actually have platforms that allow you to bet on whether or not your business is going to be successful or not. This is not a good situation. I encourage everybody, and these are just basic management principles. Like, this is like Peter Drucker 101. Go back to basics. Pay attention to the details. Do what you do best. And if you don't love it, explore that. Figure it out. When you were happy starting out with your business, remember, that's when you flourished. So people get tired, people get exhausted, and we just encourage them to refocus, regain, explore what is bothering you, and let us help you fix that.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense. I do think that there is, in society right now, you said one thing that really sticks out to me, and I think it comes part of this. It's part of the soundbite culture, social media, like everything really is wanting instantaneous results. But you and I both know that largely that doesn't happen. I mean, things compound over time. And so I think our audience actually knows that, especially, the more mature audience. And one thing that I really want to say is, I think that more often than not, when someone does come to us, when a client comes to us, they've known about Wealth Factory for some time, right? And they might have thought about doing something with Wealth Factory a while back. And usually there's some sort of a life-changing event where they know that if they, based on what it is that they've seen, they've read, if they had worked with Wealth Factory, that life-altering event may not have happened. And so we have kind of like these two things. Number one, I think young entrepreneurs get really used to the hope and the desire that they are going to hit it big, and that's going to happen, and it's going to happen on one transaction. More seasoned entrepreneurs know that, there's a little bit of a slog, a little bit of a grind in growing a company. And usually they experience a lot of things over time. And usually the more experienced entrepreneur, the person a little bit further along, is the person that actually comes to us after they've made a few mistakes and they know that they need to untangle that. But there is a different opportunity that can be presented to someone, which is starting doing the right things earlier on in your career. And so, can you talk a little bit about maybe a client or someone that you know that enrolled in Well Factory, right, earlier on, and they were able to build something really substantial, just understanding that the basic entrepreneurial principles and also money management principles that Well Factory brings to the table can help them compound over time, and how that actually added up.
Yeah. Well, couple points on that. Number one, this brand is so powerful, people don't forget it. I've got products I use every day. I can not recall the name of the company. It just isn't significant to me. But when somebody comes across the Well Factory brand, even if it was just to read one post or one email, and then they went on to the next thing, it's an easy thing to remember. I need these folks now. And we hear from them again. But the second thing I want to point out too is that because we have tiered programs, we actually have programs for individuals that do aspire to be that successful entrepreneur, but they're not quite there yet. We can put them in a program that just focuses on the very, very basic things. And a more seasoned entrepreneur is going to gravitate to those basic things. When I work with clients, and I do work with clients directly, my conversation with a 60-year-old is way different than my conversation with a 30-year-old. A 30-year-old has no context, where a 60-year-old can actually be reminded to do things the way they used to do it. This morning, our meeting was talking about significant things from several years ago that need to be brought back. There was a reason why they got rotated out, but we need to bring them back because our clients gravitate to that. There is a reason why the movie Moneyball was so successful. It's just a story about one man who happened to be very smart, but he's just one man. It's a lot of smart people out there. The reason our society gravitated to Moneyball, because smaller hits and progress actually resonate more with people than swinging for the fence. Oh, it's fun. It's fun, to hit it out of the park. But those quick hits, just get to first base, get to second base, get to third base. And doing that year after year after year, and you look up and go, oh my heavens, I'm actually very wealthy. And I didn't get that quick hit. I stuck with it. I enjoyed the journey, and then looked up one day and go, wow, I'm actually closer than I thought. And we help them see that.
So Well Factory was founded in 2014. So back then I was actually a financial advisor, and I think about that. And it was really at the beginning of my career. And so we're talking about over a decade ago. And I think that I was really early in my career. I gravitated so strongly toward Wealth Factory, the principles of Wealth Factory, and actually utilized them in my financial advisory business before ever working with you, engaging with you, and so on. But I think Wealth Factory actually really is, the original of a lot of, this thought process that we implement with our clients. And so with all of that being said, I actually look up and I think about it, and I think we have a tendency to measure ourselves into the future. And so, which is really hard when you're always striving toward this horizon. You're never actually going to reach that horizon. But when I look back 12 years ago. Uh, what I know is how far that I've come in implementing and utilizing the same principles as Wealth Factory, right? And I mean, I've built 6 businesses since then. Everything is compounded. Everything wasn't big at first, right? Everything was a baby step all the way along the way. And when I measure into the future, I often don't feel very accomplished. But if I look at my history and how far I've come since I met Wealth Factory, I think that it's really, really substantial. And so, what I want to say is my own journey has been alongside Wealth Factory. Before I even knew you, I was a huge fan of Wealth Factory and the brand, and Wealth Factory did change my life. And as my relationship has gotten closer and closer and closer to Wealth Factory, I become more and more and more successful, and it's made a lot of my life, a lot of the things that I've done in my life possible that wouldn't have been possible otherwise, as well as Wealth Factory's brought us together. And so I'm extremely, extremely thankful for that. I have a question. This is something that we hear constantly, and I even experience myself. I make more than I ever have, and I feel more broke than ever. And I think that this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs experience. And so if I look back just a few years ago when I first met you, right, I think that this was extremely true for me in that I mean, I'm the type of guy that naturally would put it all on black, all the time. And so I poured everything, every single resource that I had, back into things that I was doing. And that's okay when it's all green lights, when the economy's doing great.
And you're single.
Yeah, and when you're single. Yeah, that's exactly right. But, one thing that I've experienced in life is that the tide always goes out, right? And the people who don't have clothes on end up exposed, right?
And it's not pretty.
Yeah, and it's not pretty. And so at the end of the day, that's something that I've experienced in my life. And fortunately, I myself never experienced bankruptcy. I never had a company that went bankrupt. But I'll tell you what, I had some nights that, maybe months on end where I didn't sleep. I was tortured. It's like, that's a living hell when you're in a place where it looks like everything's going to crumble. And so my question for you is, if we have people who are in this scenario right now, because I think that we're in a winter, right? I think we're seeing a winter right now, a winter season for entrepreneurs. And there are a lot of people that are struggling. And I think that many of them are coming out of the other end right now, but there are some that are just still in the middle of it. What would you say to that person that's still in the middle of their winter and they can't see the forest before the trees, right? And so talking to them about things like generational wealth preservation, setting up a trust seems pretty, it doesn't even seem applicable in their everyday life because all they really are thinking about is, am I going to make the next payroll? Right? So what would you say to that person?
What business owner sees is what they want to see. Nothing is ever perfect. There's never going to be a perfect time to do anything. There's always going to be an issue. Interest rates, inflation, politics kind of seem to be the topics of today. But roll back several years, it was derivatives and spreads and foreclosures. And then before that, it was .com issues, gas issues before that. It will always be something. And we can't choose what those things will be, but we can choose how we view them. Easier said than done. I spend a lot of time on my mental and my spiritual preparation before I go into battle every day. And I have several tools, and we have several resources and several people in our network that can help individuals sort all that out. But I was right there too. The first time I went through a very, very scary situation, didn't sleep, didn't eat. And I destroyed relationships probably during that time period. And I can't control the economy. I can't control circumstances. But I vowed I will never do this again. I will never put myself through this again. And that's when I started a path of mental health, of physical health, which served me so well in my business. But more importantly, I'm very optimistic about things, but I recognize the realities of being a small business owner. And most of the challenges that our clients are having isn't necessarily because of the economy. It has more to do with how they manage their money. I am sitting in a situation right now where there are some challenges, but I worked on my war chest a long time ago to be able to deal with that. So many of the business owners we work with, their war chest is sitting in a Ferrari or in a beach house or in some other vehicle they may have put themselves in. That's not easy to undo with short notice. It's about keeping that balance. I encourage everybody, and we encourage everybody, go live the life you love. It's what's going to make you happy, but you can't spend the last dollar in the bank doing it. Find that balance. And what's intoxicating about entrepreneurism, when it's good, you get this feeling it's going to last forever and you're bulletproof.
Yeah.
Until Monday morning when there's a major correction or a war breaks out or the bank that you're with is being taken over by somebody else and they're changing the ratios that loaned you money. We can't control those things. So it's coming. Everything that hits the fan is going to hit the fan. It's a matter at that point of how we deal with it.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think that we have another profile that is fascinating. And that other profile is kind of the opposite. And so someone who's actually been more of an accumulator, right? But they've always dreamed about going off and doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that society tells us a lot of things about entrepreneurship. And I think at the forefront of that is like it's some huge risk that you're taking and going out and betting on yourself. I just talked to a guy today. He's making extremely, extremely good money. He's working on contract with the government several times over again. He has great income. He's building, a really good base for himself in real estate, and he's also doing investments and doing those on his own. But all of that being said, is kind of seeing the writing on the wall with a lot of layoffs at larger organizations, and the way that some of these middle management type positions are being eliminated, and especially due to AI. And so I was actually watching an interview yesterday that's really, really good, and it was Diary of a CEO, and he was interviewing Alex Honnold, the best climber in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And what Alex was talking about was, well, the question was, how is it that you deal with this massive amount of risk and what it is that you do with your life? And Alex's answer to that was, there's only like one thing that's certain. All of us are going to die, right? And the matter, what we all have an opportunity to choose what it is that our risk is. And so we better be really careful about what is the risk that we choose.
Mm-hmm.
And he understands what he does is dangerous, right? But is it as dangerous as a lot of other things that people don't perceive to be dangerous? How dangerous is sitting in front of a camera every single day, working on a laptop, and not having a healthy diet and developing heart disease,
Mm-hmm.
right? But people don't see this as risk. And so I say all of this because I think that there is a profile of person that has always been accumulating and maybe never actually really took the risk on themselves. And so what is it that you would say to that person that actually dreams of, wants to be an entrepreneur, but has never taken the leap?
I would defer to the story I shared with you earlier. 100% of mine and Jenny's savings were in a qualified plan.
Wow.
I took it, paid the penalty, wasn't really worried about the taxes because there's a strategy around mitigating that, actually, depending upon the person's situation. And I did. Even after paying the penalty, my return on that qualified money is at least 5x for the businesses that I put that into. And if it stayed in that account, it just, I've got one of my business credit cards that deposits into a savings account, and the benefits, the points. So I'm like, okay, great. Look at my savings account. I actually don't pay a lot of attention to the rates in a basic savings account. It is like less than 0.1%. That is criminal, actually, when you think about it. That's what my qualified plan would have been getting, basically.
Yeah.
And when I see what that original seed money did for me, I am so grateful, and I never looked back. And if there is one great thing about a high-paying W-2 job, it theoretically can give you your startup money. It's right there. It's ready to go. And taxes are not going to be lower in the future. Take that hit now, because what's left over, you will get a great, great return on.
I mean, if I look at same thing, right? Like I cashed in 401k in order to fund what I did. And it's produced millions and millions of dollars, right? Uh, over that period of time. And that 401k would have never been able to do that. And
look what it's done to build your character.
It's crazy.
To give you strength. You don't get any of that sitting at a desk. Looking at the screen all day.
None. I mean,
you're a better person because of that.
Even the worst stuff that you experience, what you learn along the way is the gifts that those things give you. And it sounds so cliche when it's said out loud, but man, I mean, the worst of things really gave me the very best character that is possible. And I can walk into a circumstance, or you can walk into a circumstance that's really, really hard, right? An example is walking in with confidence to a circumstance where something is plummeting toward the ground, right? And knowing, okay, we need to turn this lever, this lever, this lever, this lever. and not being afraid because you've been there before.
Mhm.
You know, they can't take anything from you that hasn't been taken from you before.
Right.
You know,
That's true.
So what I always say is that entrepreneurship is the very best spiritual and self-development program that you could possibly put yourself in.
That's true. That's true.
It is.
Because you can't check out.
Yeah.
You're there.
I think Dan Sullivan, no relation at all to this guy, but he's a great philosopher of business, I think. He said entrepreneurship is a life sentence. And I think that that's true.
Yes.
Norm, thank you so much. I always appreciate the time that we get together here in Wealth Factory. Couldn't appreciate you anymore. I know that our audience does.
Mm-hmm.
They show it in their active watching and listening. And we want to thank you guys for being part of Wealth Factory, everything that you do, your contributions, following us, and make sure if you aren't following us, one thing that you can do for us, we do, do this show because we're really passionate about it, but it helps us grow a lot if you do subscribe. And so please make sure that you do subscribe to Wealth Factory as a channel. It also means that we'll show up in your algorithm more often, and you'll be able to gain more knowledge on how it is that you can build a really structured financial practice in your life. And so appreciate you so much for what you give back to us. We can only do this because you exist. And let's grow. Thank you.